Spoilers.
I like that word.
We're good?
We're
Okay.
good.
Hello and welcome to Spoiler Nation, video edition. So this is, it's usually, Spoiler Nation is usually a podcast where we dive deep into your favorite and sometimes not so favorite movies and TV shows. And we usually dive deep into spoilers. It's been a while. It's been a while since we've done an episode. Obviously, my name is Howie, and I'm a senior editor at isolatednation.com. And joining me all the way in Japan is Rhys, a senior film contributor at isolatednation.com. It's good to be back.
Yeah, what's going on, everybody? It's nice to be on video, talking about the newest news.
Yes. I apologize in advance for inflicting our visuals to you, but we just thought, hey, we've been trying to get this some version of this podcast work, given that I'm in Perth, Australia, and you are in which part of Japan are you in?
Tokyo, baby, center of Tokyo. Right.
Wow, exciting!
Right in the thick of it.
Yeah. So thought it'd be a good time to change things up and finally figure out how to get a Zoom podcast going.
Yeah, and I think this is a good opportunity like today because, as you know, there's been very, very little in the way of news, like new things to talk about. So there was a DC Fandome, which was the online DC convention, and there's a lot to talk about, and a lot of it looks good and interesting. So I guess that's what this episode's about, right?
Yeah. So this episode will be comic book movies themed, I suppose. Yeah. So we will talk about mostly DC comic properties, given the DC Fandome thing that's happening right now.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll be talking about the Snyder Cut.
Yes, Zack Snyder's cake. That's what it is.
Of course, we'll be talking about the Batman trailer, starring Robert Pattinson. We'll talk about the trailer for the new Suicide Squad movie directed by James Gunn, and then some updates on the Wonder Woman movie that it's taking forever to come out due to obvious reasons.
Yeah.
And finally, we will wrap things up with we'll step outside the DC zone and wrap things up with a review of Umbrella Academy, which is on Netflix. Right?
Yeah. So I think we'll start with the Zack Snyder's Justice League. So I think to start with, me and you should give our very brief thoughts on the theatrically released version. We did a podcast about it, and when I saw it, my thought, and I think yours was similar, was like, it's okay, like it's not horrible. But
that's right. Yeah.
I've rewatched it one or two more times since then, and I retract my opinion. I think it's a god awful, garbage movie. It doesn't hold up like at all. You can see just how broken and busted it is.
Yeah, well, check out our Justice League episode on the Spoiler Nation podcast. You can get it wherever you get your podcasts. It's on Spotify, it's on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, etc. So check us out there. But yes, I think at the time, and we kind of we had this caveat, which is, compared to other DC properties, the Justice League, initially directed by Zack Snyder, but cobbled together by Joss Whedon, was fine in comparison. It was a Frankenstein's monster of a series of scenes made from with Joss Whedon's his signature Avengers-esque quirk and vision, and it was an okay movie that was flawed, right? And it's by and that's of course by DC's the DCEU the track record standards.
Yeah.
Um,
so Zack Snyder, he was left, or he was kicked off the project, or something went wrong. And now, because of there was such a groundswell of fan support to see his cut of the movie, which a lot of people said didn't exist, or it was unwatchable because it was just a series of unfinished scenes. But it's happening now. It's going to be on HBO Max. There's releasing it in 1 hour installments, so it's a 4-hour thing.
A 4-part, yeah.
Yeah, 4-part
It's a 4-part
series.
miniseries.
And he's got $30 million to, complete what his vision was. And I am pretty interested in watching it, because this isn't the main DC film thing anymore. This is a weird side-off alternate universe take. And I can't really be upset about his specific stylistic stuff, which I don't agree with. I'm just kind of curious to see how it looks. And, the trailer uses Hallelujah.
The Leonard Cohen.
Yeah.
Which of course.
Yeah. He used that in his Watchmen movie during a very infamous sex scene. And so, this is him saying, this is my thing. And it looks like a different movie. And I don't know, it looks visually pretty, and I want to see how it's different. I'm curious. What do you think?
Yeah, I believe, I never thought this would happen. This is such a sign of the times, 2020 thing to happen of course, the Snyder Cut now exists and will now be released. Obviously, # release the Snyder Cut was a trending thing over the past few years. But the trailers always look good. The DC trailers always look good, and there is something to this formula of playing a classic song that's a slow classic song over kind of say what you want about Zack Snyder, he is an expert in composing images, and it fits really well with a trailer. Everything looks amazing. I wanted, when I saw it was the Justice League, the Joss Whedon version, it was fine. I personally would like more emotion in that movie, or in a DC movie like this, and it looks like they are going to he is going to deliver on that, at least on paper. So I had no interest in seeing I had no interest in joining the movement to get this released. And Zack Snyder doesn't really have a good track record in good movies, really, or movies that I enjoy. But I'm very curious to see how this turns out. I'm interested,
and I'm happy for him, because I watched a lot of interviews where he talks about this stuff, and he doesn't seem to me to be the most articulate person with these properties, but he definitely loves it, and he has a take, and he's not a hack. That's what I'm saying. So I want to give his grand epic vision of the Justice League. I want to give it a fair shot, and I probably won't like it that much, but I think he deserves to have his story fulfilled, because he had a plan, and it was cut off at the knees. So I think he deserves to have this released.
I agree. He, as much as we kind of champion studios to not water down a director's vision, we should I think in that same spirit, he whether or not we like his style or how he tells his stories, I think we should champion for his opportunity to tell his story, because especially since I believe the main reason why he left was, I think it was a tragic death of his daughter or something like that.
It was, but they weren't happy with what he was doing on Justice League as well. So Joss Whedon was brought in to sort of help him before his daughter's death. So
I see.
Yeah, so but this seems to be him completely like unfiltered. So yeah,
well,
it's a do-over basically.
What would you like to see improved in this version? Because I have a few thoughts. I wasn't really satisfied with Superman's character and his role in Justice League in this movie, as just like the nuclear weapon. I would like to see his character fleshed out more, especially with how they treated Lois Lane as just this object that can be used to influence Superman,
like the Hulk.
So
like the Hulk or something is terrible.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of the same relationship really with like Black Widow and the Hulk, you know. So I would like something like something more fleshed out with them, and it seems like, especially with the scenes with Clark and Lois and Martha, maybe there's something there. I would also like to see Cyborg's storyline fleshed out a bit more, because he was also treated like a MacGuffin in a way, and they hint at his tragic backstory. I don't think they did much with it as well.
He is going to be the heart of the movie, supposedly. Like, he is the main guy of Zack Snyder's vision. So what I want to see personally, I just want to see 3 things. Like, just if these 3 things happen, I will be like a fine, happy camper. So first, Batman has to prove his worth in the Justice League. Like, he has to be like a good strategist. He can't be, like just
punchy guy.
Punchy rich guy, which is very lame. The Flash can't just be the court jester. I didn't like his comedy relief. I didn't like that approach.
I liked it.
I wasn't a big fan of it. And number 3, I guess I want to see the epic scope. Like, it has to feel big, because the theatrical version felt very contained, very small. The world didn't know there was a Justice League. Like, it just felt like it was very insular. And that's a result of much of the movie being reshots and just using little sets and stuff like that. So I want a big scope. I want it to feel very ambitious. If it's those 3 things, I'll be happy, with that.
Yeah, and I get what you mean there in terms of the world knowing that the Justice League exists, because at the beginning of this new trailer, there's a post-apocalyptic shot of, I don't know, Gotham or something, and there is like the destroyed Justice League
Hall of Justice.
Sign. Hall of Justice, and you're just like, well, okay, this literally came together in this movie, so the stakes weren't like, oh, the Justice League will be destroyed. Like, they were never, this was the movie where they banded together. So seeing some kind of vision of them being disbanded isn't really doesn't show me the stakes, because I don't really know how this team works as a team yet. Anyway. Or what they stand for the general public.
Yeah. And I think this movie is going to show more of the backstory of like Apocalypse, Darkseid, Steppenwolf. There's a whole lot of there's a lot of material there that could be interesting, but it was all cut out of the theatrical version. So there's an opportunity to make it cool. But those are my thoughts. I'm curious, and if they have the things I mentioned, I'll be fine with it.
We'll see.
So they also showed, I think we'll move to the Batman next, right? With Robert Pattinson. This looks to be like a year 2 Batman movie, they say. Like, Batman has been around for 2 years, and they're using the Riddler and the Penguin, really underused villains, at least in like the movies. And this looks like a really cool kind of gothic crime movie, like much smaller scale, very dark, which is how I like Batman. That's my preference. I don't necessarily think he's best with those big world-ending or like destroy the city stakes, which is how it's been for the past 10 years in his movies. So this looks like exactly what I want, and the use of Nirvana in the trailer was, they got my money. Nirvana and Batman, they have my money 2 times. What did you think?
Yeah, I think I really got some Zodiac vibes from
Yeah.
this trailer.
Mm-hmm.
Zodiac, the movie directed by David Fincher, especially with, there's some kind of murder mystery happening.
Yeah.
Someone is leaving clues behind. I assume Paul Dano's Riddler.
Yeah.
Is Paul Dano playing the Riddler, right?
Yeah, they show him. He looks very different. Like, if you didn't know it was a Riddler, you wouldn't really know, because in the trailer he has like this tape over his face and these glasses, and he has this very like dark voice. And because up until now the Riddler in the movies has been a very like cartoonish, kind of garish, quirky Jim Carrey. So this is like a legitimate serial killer kind of version.
I like if that is the case. Like, I like this vibe.
Yeah.
And I like the gothic, psychological thriller aspect of this of this trailer. That it seems to be giving out. And I think Batman is all about the mind in a way. Even the symbol itself is he's meant to be a symbol to Gotham. His technique is around like illusions and instilling fear in people's minds so that they are weak when he kind of destroys them. And you see a few of these scenes where people are like freaked out and they're like, wait, what are you?
That
and
was that was such a great scene where they're kind of laughing at him at first, like, what's this clown? And he just beats the hell out of this guy. And you can hear the bone crunching and squelching, and it kind of cuts back to the guys, and like they look like they're about to cry. And that's a very effective way to show like how scary he is, that the Nolan movies didn't do, Burton didn't really do. This is a new way to show that, and I'm all in for that, showing an unhinged, kind of reckless Kylo Ren-esque Batman.
This is funny. This is a funny thing that you mentioned this because Zack Snyder essentially tried to do this with the Ben Affleck version of Batman, but because in his movies things are so clinical and cold and unfeeling, it's just badass Batman. Badass ruthless Batman, because no one really reacts in a kind of a human way like it seems people do in this trailer, where like the fear is real and you can tell there is a lot of kind of machinations that go into fitting this version of Batman in this universe and how he influences the world compared to how Snyder does it.
For sure, because in Snyder's version, like, think about what's the plot surrounding Batman. He wants to kill Superman, and he's fighting a big monster at the end of the movie. And then there's Justice League. So there's not much opportunity to show like Batman's strengths as a character,
or his philosophy even.
You can't really show like his world, like Gotham City, his supporting cast, the element of corruption, which this movie looks interested in. That seems to be what the Riddler is sort of fighting against, like, because he has this expression where he says, what's the price for turning a blind eye? And, turning a blind eye to corruption or whatever. I mean, that's just my guess. So you can go real deep on that in a movie where he's like the main character and not a side piece in the DC universe. So I'm down for that, for sure. Something smaller. Yeah. And Robert Pattinson, he fills out the costume really well. The costume the costume design is excellent. Like, I can't fault it one bit. I didn't like the Nolan costume. This one looks terrific. I'm all in for this for sure. No reservations.
There was a point where he looks very emo in the scene, and I think in a different time that would be funny. But in 2020, seeing an emo Batman, a Robert Pattinson emo Batman, just feels right,
Yeah, absolutely. And the movies have always shied away from the raccoon eyes when he takes the mask
Yeah,
off. But
yeah,
this movie seems to embrace it by saying, look, Winter Soldier looks very cool and threatening with the raccoon eyes. Let's just kind of give him the same sort of photography. And
yeah,
it works. He's a good enough actor that he can sell like an unhinged raccoon eyes look without it being a joke. Like,
yeah.
so it looks, the last image of him in the trailer where he's got like the hair in his face and the raccoon eyes, I thought,
Yeah.
wow, that looks like a video game like that. Not in like a bad way, but like it looks like very artistic. So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Mm.
Great.
Yeah, so we're up for that. I think October next year is when that comes out. So it's a ways off. They've only shot 25% of the movie.
Yeah, it did, and would it say in production or something like that?
Yeah, they had
really
to.
jumping the gun with
Yeah, they had to
the
stop.
trailer release.
Well, they had to stop because of coronavirus. So now the way they're filming it, it's all indoors, like with a green screen and whatnot. So I hope that's integrated smoothly and not too obvious. But that's what they have to do, I guess.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah. So Batman looks good. Let's look at Suicide Squad. James Gunn's.
This is the old one though.
Yeah,
but anyway.
Yeah. It's still actually most of them are returning. From the. I thought they'd completely reboot it, but they've got a lot of the characters from David Ayer's version coming back. But it seems completely sort of a different tone. They're moving away from the ghetto gangster aesthetic that he was very intent on. Looks more like comic book faithful. Best, not much to say, but best Harley Quinn live action costume so far. Or what do you think? Did you see?
Yeah, she looks. Yeah, she looks cool, and I also love that red dress that she wears. In some parts of the movie. Very cool.
Yeah, it looks very faithful, but like for a modern movie as well. And they've got like really out there characters, which I'm excited about. Like,
I'm very excited about Polka Dot Man.
Yes. I feel like he's going to steal the movie. I don't know why, but I feel like he's going to take the movie.
Apparently, his thing is his polka dots have like weapons and stuff.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So that should be interesting. Of course, Sean Gunn, brother of James Gunn. Sean Gunn was famously in Gilmore Girls. But also he plays kind of the caricature of Rocket Raccoon.
Yeah.
And he's back as another like an animal like character.
Yeah, like it looks like a senior Rocket Raccoon. I don't know what it is.
Which character are you most looking forward to in to show up?
I think King Shark. I mean, King Shark looks amazing. Just this really friendly, beefy looking shark man. I don't know. It looks amazing.
Well, have you seen the Harley Quinn animated series?
Yes. And I love King Shark in that version as well. It's just he's soft guy. Yeah.
So Sean Gunn plays Weasel, which is like which is very similar to Rocket Raccoon, except this Weasel looks crazed.
Here's the thing I like that I suspect, because the Suicide Squad, they're together because they have the implants in their head, right? And they're forced to do these jobs. And there's a huge cast, so they're going to be popping off heads like grapes left and right. Pete Davidson
as Blackguard is probably going to be the first to go, right? I mean, that is surely just like a bit casting. Yeah. He's barely in the trailer.
It would be a twist if he didn't die. Yeah.
And what are your thoughts on Nathan Fillion as a character called TDK?
No thoughts on the character, but I'm glad he's in it. Like, I really like that guy.
He looks weird. Like, he looks like Juggernaut a little bit.
I'm actually. I like John Cena as Peaceman.
Peacemaker, yeah.
Peacemaker, right? He's like a supposedly douchebag Captain America.
I like that.
He can run with that. So yeah, I'm speaking of Suicide Squad as well. Rocksteady, the game company, they released a preview, a pretty long preview of a game called Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League. So in that game, you can play as like Deadshot, Harley Quinn, King Shark, all the rest, and your job is to kill Superman and the rest of the Justice League. It looks really colorful and fun and like very wacky. I'm really excited to play that as well. I guess that comes out next year, but I think they're timing it with the release of the movie, you know, like synergy and stuff. Did you hear about that? Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League?
I saw the video. I saw the trailer for it. It reminds me more of the Harley Quinn animated series.
Yeah.
Style.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's very comedy heavy.
Yeah.
Which I like. I'm not a huge video game person, but that looks fun. Where they look up, they're like, okay, did you figure out who we're going to kill? And they look up at Superman and they point at him, and they know that they're all screwed. There's a lot.
Go.
Oh, and in the video game as well, from the bits I can see, they give a lot of these seemingly not powerful characters a lot of cool gadgets and features that I kind of wish is in the movies a bit more, which, you know, kind of would give way to, you know, like, well, how can Harley Quinn hope to defeat any member of the Justice League, really?
Yeah.
But then in this video game, you see like she has little gadgets and little bombs and stuff that she can use.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
I will say this brings me to like kind of a larger gripe. It's a kind of a vague thing, but you know, in the trailer, Superman seems to be like under mind control, like he burns some guy. And you know, with all this DC Fandome stuff, I'm like, oh, they didn't figure out what to do with Superman yet. Like, there's no Superman project. You know, how hard can it be to like just get a decent Superman project off the ground and there's no hint of it? Like, I feel like he's being left by the wayside big time. I mean, the Snyder Cut Justice League is showing Superman, but that's the Superman I never liked, you know?
Yeah, it's a demented version of Superman, really.
He's like a boring anti-hero. Like, I just want the straightforward Superman in the 21st century, like, headlining his own movie, and I don't know why that's not getting off the ground. Do you have any thoughts about that?
Yeah, we need. I agree. I think Superman is it's the same. People who criticize or people who don't like Superman have the same opinion, and I'm talking about maybe the general public here. Sometimes they have not general public, but like people who are not keyed in to what these characters are like in the comic books or in their animated series counterpart. They have the same gripe with Captain America, where they call him like a boring goody two shoes. And it's probably why they haven't really quite figured out Superman yet, because they don't want, they see Superman as the boring Boy Scout goody two shoes. But I think that, even in a time like this, a hopeful character like how Superman is supposed to be, that demonstrates like emotional intelligence, that demonstrates kindness and generosity in the face of kind of complex evil, I guess, or complex kind of opposition, and is so relevant to like what we want in the world right now. And if they find a good way to crack it and not kind of just basically make him Batman with superpowers, I think that is such a good opportunity to do that.
Yeah, I guess it's just the larger thing with DC. These new things look interesting and I'm excited, but they are intent to a certain extent on dragging them all through the gutter. Which is, I guess, what the thing is. But you know, Superman, if you look at like sort of his best stories in the comics, there's a very easy way to translate that into like fun, colorful adventures that are like very exciting and like moving and emotional. But yeah, so I guess it's at odds with their brand, with what they're doing, what they want to do.
Well, I would say there has been, and we spoke about this off the air, I guess, but there has been a Superman type story that came out in one of these DC properties that is like the key signifier of what makes Superman great, and it's in season 2 of the TV show Titans, which is now on Netflix. There is one episode, I think it's just called Superboy, and the episode, it's a one-off episode. Obviously the rest of the show is about, you know, kind of the quote unquote Teen Titans, you know, Robin, etc., like a dark and gritty take on, of course, on these superheroes, and they swear, you know,
they
like
kill, they hate each other.
they're angsty, like every member is angsty, except for and then suddenly they give us this breath of fresh air. You can even watch this as its own like mini movie, where and this episode just follows Superboy, which is a clone of both Lex Luthor and Superman's genetics combined, wakes up and tries to figure out who he is in a very literal sense, and also obviously in a more metaphorical sense, and trying to kind of trying to find his place in the world, and trying to justify the dark side of himself, which, you know, the Lex Luthor side, and the good side, which is Superman. And it's such a, I think that was as close as they've gotten to like a really interesting take on Superman through the lens of Superboy.
You know, I would watch that Superboy TV show, like with him as the main character and with the dog, like the crypto dog.
Yeah.
That was like, that episode was on another level, man. Like it was so much better than the rest of season 2 or season 1 of Titans. Yeah. They had something there, but they seem to abandon it. I don't know.
Spin that off into its own show. I think it could be a really good show.
Yeah, I mean, you got to work out like effects budgets and all that kind of nonsense, but if they could make it work, I would be into it. But yeah, they also we also touched on this, the Wonder Woman 1984. That was supposed to come out, I think, in June. That was when it was supposed to be released. Now it's like, who knows? Maybe end of this year, next year. But
they still you go.
They showed us the trailer, right? Like another trailer. They gave us a good glimpse of Cheetah, like the sort of animal villain she's fighting.
Her arch nemesis. The animated series as well. Yeah.
They got Kirsten Wiig, which I've always rated her. Like I like that actress a lot.
I think it's Kristen.
Kristen,
right?
No, not Kirsten Dunst. Kristen. Yeah, I was thinking of Kirsten Dunst. Yeah, so that looks good, and I'm really glad they're bringing back the Steve and Wonder Woman romance, because that was far and away that was the best part of the first movie. So I think they're smart to focus on that again. And yeah, the 80s sort of setting looks fun. What do you think?
I think the I've like my Wonder Woman is probably my favorite Justice League cinematic DCEU superhero.
Yeah.
So, and I, you know, with the missed opportunity with Superman, I've always maintained that Wonder Woman fits that slot of inspiring hero that demonstrates kindness, and that Superman is supposed to represent so she does it very well. So in the absence of that, I think she fits that role very well. And I think she actually should be the de facto hero that brings the group together, and not Batman. It actually doesn't really make sense for Batman to, you know, obviously in the extended in the Snyder Cut trailer, Batman says, you know, we can fight them united or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
It just doesn't sound like coming from Batman, who is more like whatever it takes, you know, kind of whatever sacrifices needed to be done, I'll do it. But he's not that person who's like, we need to stand together.
He was a nihilist in Batman v Superman. I mean, so it was a bit weird.
But yeah, I'm interested to. I'm excited for this movie. I'm the thing about Cheetah as a villain is that she just doesn't seem that powerful compared to Wonder Woman. So I'm not sure, like, is she the main antagonist of this movie, or is there someone else?
No, it's Maxwell Lord, I think is
that the
Pedro Pascal? I don't know much about Wonder Woman stuff, but I know he's a big villain. And he's like he's like a Lex Luthor type, I believe. I could be wrong. So I feel like he's like the primary antagonist and she's like the physical threat. I think so. But I think, I don't know if this is just me, but like her fighting like a tiger or a cheetah or whatever, it looks like stupid. Like it looks silly. It's hard to wrap my mind around it for some reason. Like I'll accept I'll accept King Shark, but for some reason this is a bridge too far. I don't know why.
Well, especially since they showed this scene where she's wearing like golden armor, and you're just like, okay, if she actually just stood there and not fight her, she'll be fine.
Yeah, just let her tire herself out.
Yeah. So I'm interested to see how this actually works out, like with how they shoot the fight scenes and things like that. I think they are a bit premature with showing a lot of like the cool shots. Like even I love that scene where Wonder Woman lassos lightning, but I think that should have just been in a surprise in the movie and not a trailer thing.
Yeah, but they did give away a few money shots. But I'll definitely watch it, of the goodwill from Wonder Woman 1. And I hope it's a lot of fun. I don't think it'll be like great, but I hope it's fun.
Yeah.
It's not like where I'm like, it better be great like the Batman, like that better be great. This is just like, I hope I have a good time.
It looks like there's going to be a lot of people out of time jokes, with I almost said Steve Rogers, but what's his name?
Steve Trevor.
Yeah. With that guy going like, "Oh, I'm in the '80s," that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So at least that'll be funny, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, because like in the first movie, her being a fish out of water was kind of like a funny thing. So I guess they're reversing it now. Now he's the one out of place, and she's like, "Hey, you're an idiot. This is not how we do it." Yeah. But like, I'm excited. I'll be there. If not opening day, first week, I'll see it. Let's talk about the Umbrella Academy Season 2, just released on Netflix.
Let's do that. Have you seen the show?
I the first season came out last year, right? I saw the first episode. And it was very weird because I watched it and I was like, oh, that was pretty good. But for some reason, I had no desire to continue watching it. And I think for me, the feeling was it felt sort of long. I didn't love the visual aesthetic. It wasn't fun to watch, but a lot of Netflix shows have this plastic, dark look to them. I don't know how to explain it. I'm not like a cinematographer or whatever, but there was a definite look that put me off a bit. And I thought, I don't know. I don't really want to finish it. Like I'm not really grabbed. I know it's a very respected comic book written by Gerard Way, the My Chemical Romance.
Yeah, lead singer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I liked the monkey butler or whatever that was.
No.
That was very impressive. Like
very well. Yeah. I guess before we start, let's talk about a bit of what the show is about. So we are switching gears here from like a DC universe comic book properties into something that is just a little different. and kind of an interesting twist on kind of the superhero genre. And this is, of course, as you mentioned, it's on Netflix. It's the premise of the show. It's basically it's a twisted version of maybe like The Incredibles meets X-Men.
It seemed like X-Men to me. Like it had X-Men feelings. Yeah.
It almost is kind of a parody, not a parody or a commentary on how the X-Men works.
I guess a deconstruction.
Deconstruction. There you go. Because it's it's about like basically a dysfunctional adopted superhero family of siblings who at the point of the show's as the show starts are really coping with the aftermath of being inducted into this crime fighting institution as children by this kind of distant, mysterious, very strict and demanding father whose name is Reginald Hargreaves. So this is kind of about the Hargreaves family. The father being so cold and so just institution focused that he named them. He doesn't give them names, but instead gives them numbers. Everyone is like number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5. So I thought, the premise is very interesting. It reminds me of a little bit of like this twist to a superhero genre. Reminds me of like how Mike Flanagan, who is the director of Doctor Sleep, that's the sequel to The Shining, and who directed The Haunting of Hill House, that explores the psychological ramifications of going through a horror movie. Which was, his stuff starts after the horror movie takes place and follows the characters way later experience coping with the psychological effects of that. And so with the Umbrella Academy, I like that, like the breath of fresh air it brings is looking at the characters or how being in a crime fighting superhero institution that is very similar to the X-Men, how they cope with it after they become adults.
I do have a question. So, because I just saw the first episode. So in the show, are they like still crime fighters, or is it just about their personal lives? It's like more of a drama.
It's more of a drama. So in the show, there's only really one member left in the academy, which is number 1, because he is seen as the leader, and he is kind of seen as the dad's. Theoretically, they are kind of numbered according to their usefulness, which is why he's named as number 1, because he's like the leader. He has super strength. And he is still like, everyone has daddy issues in the show for obvious reasons. So his issue is that he's holding on to their father's legacy by still being in there, even after all the other members have either left or died.
And they didn't seem too interested in continuing the thing, from what I remember.
Exactly. And so the first season revolves around them coming together after to kind of solve the mystery of their father's death, as well as the reappearance of the boy number 5, who disappeared many years ago when they were kids and has now reappeared in the same form as he was when he was a child. So everyone is grown up now. He's still a child. He looks like a child, but he's actually a 40-year-old man. Very complicated time travel, etc. But the second season focuses on the aftermath of them time traveling into, I believe, the 80s, and them trying to stop the apocalypse from happening again. And you deal a lot with time travel shenanigans. But I think the way to approach this show, I think people who watch this show really expecting something like Titans or something like even like Justice League or the Avengers, where it's about pitting superpowered people against each other are going to be disappointed, because this show is it's a family drama first and a superhero show second. They just happen to have superpowers, really.
Yeah.
And it has a lot of action. It's really fun, but I think obviously there's some, like, in terms of criticism against the show, in terms of how their powers work, or whether or not someone is really strong or not. And for example, Allison in the show, her power is essentially suggestion or mind control, but she's a character who is kind of reluctant to use those powers. So theoretically, she can be kind of like the villain from Jessica Jones.
Kilgrave. Yeah.
Kilgrave from Jessica Jones. She has unlimited power that can solve a lot of their problems, but she doesn't use it, which people understandably would get frustrated by. But with a lens of, like, this is the family, this is more about the characters first, and not about the kind of logistics of who's more powerful than what. It makes story sense, even though there may be a few times where it's like, okay, it doesn't. It might stretch believability that they're not using their powers correctly.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
No, yeah,
but yeah,
you're right. Like, the idea of, like, superheroes living in the real world taken to the most extreme example, that's, like, something I'm actually really interested in. Like, what kind of subcultures would form around perceiving the world in a particular way, like they can. I would love, like, a show that goes real deep into that. Yeah, for some reason, the Umbrella Academy didn't grab me as much. But was the second season, would you say it's an improvement or about the same as season one?
I think I understand that people couldn't really the criticism of people not really following the momentum in season one isn't there, because especially in the early part of the season, because you're just wondering, okay, where is this going? Because there isn't it goes on tangents and it becomes a little uneven. However, it really kind of shifts its focus towards, I think it's definitely worth watching. I would encourage you to finish at least the first season, because season two really kind of improves a lot on the first season, and has a much stronger focus on character development, where they use what might seem meandering in the first season to their advantage, because they use it as in-depth character studies for each of these characters. So it's almost sometimes like an anthology series where they really focus on one character, and because they see being in the 80s as a chance to refresh their lives, and it's very informed by the events of the first season, where maybe they don't want to repeat the same mistakes again, or they see it as a fresh start, and it also informed by how they're affected by their family. So it's very much around the theme of family, and especially like a dysfunctional family, and even finding commonalities even when there are a lot of problems within that family. So I think it's not perfect, but it's definitely it can be really fun, and also it has a kind of a strong emotional weight to it that is carried throughout the show. So for example, I almost said Juno, but Ellen Page,
the violinist, right? Yeah,
she plays I forgot which number she is, but Ellen Page plays Vanya, who is not actually part of the Umbrella Academy. She in the whole season one, she was dealing with being the ordinary child in a group of superheroes. So her what she has to deal with is being ignored by the rest of the family because she doesn't have these superpowers. When her siblings are off going on adventures and fighting crime, she is the one that's being left out. And this, in season 1, that's where the real trajectory of the show is going, which is building to the crescendo of that particular the ramifications of that on the family. That's the real plot of season 1, and season 2 plays with kind of the aftermath of that climax of season 1. So I think it's sometimes there are too many episodes, I think, one or two too many episodes, but as with all Netflix shows, they have problems with being like really succinct. But I think I think it's, if you're getting tired of the whole Avengers stuff, if you're getting tired of the whole DC stuff and would like a refreshing take on superhero type things, I think Umbrella Academy, the first and second season, is worth watching.
So if you could give a number rating, season 1 and season 2, where would you go with that?
Okay, I would say season 1 is like a 7 out of 10.
Yeah.
And season 2 is like an 8.5.
Oh, it's a big improvement.
Yeah,
it's pretty big number.
It's yeah.
All right, cool. I might restart it again, because as I said, I didn't hate the first episode. I wasn't as hooked as I was with some other things, but now
it took a while to get going.
Now there's actually not that much new to watch, I feel like. I mean, the last thing I watched was Normal People. That was new. The
great show.
That was so good. I loved it. I freaking loved it. Yeah, that was a perfect season of television. I hope they don't continue that, because I love it as it is. But I think I'll get back into it. I want to give it a proper go, because as I said, it was like an interesting enough first episode, but for some reason I didn't watch the next ones. But yeah, so I think that's our episode today, right? Unless is there anything else you want to touch on?
I mean, I guess while we are recommending shows to watch, I would also recommend Watchmen, the HBO series created by Damon Lindelof, the showrunner for Lost and the creator of another amazing HBO show called The Leftovers. It's just such an inventive, wonderful piece of art that is a brilliant adaptation that pays homage to the source material while kind of really elevating the art form, in my opinion.
Yeah, but, I mean, my parents aren't into superhero stuff, and I said you have to watch Watchmen, and yeah, they loved it. So take that for what you will, but I think that has like a real kind of prestige to it, that those 8 episodes, and Jeremy Irons, you got all these great actors, doing Regina King, for Christ's sake. It's a delicious treat of a show that was very heady, original, inventive. And if you're a fan of the comic book, not the movie so much, there's a lot to kind of appreciate about it. I want to rewatch it, actually. I mean, it's a very heavy show, so I haven't rewatched it, but yeah, terrific show.
It's also a very prescient show as well. It talks about race. It explores race and legacy, and the legacy of racism in a very important way, because it's talking it through this kind of superhero lens.
But the thing I want to say about it too is that it is a very important show in how it talks about these themes, but it has a really great pulp sensibility. Like, it moves so fast. It's so like fun and funny on occasion, like, Lube Man, like that kind of thing. And even if the themes kind of, you don't like, they fly over your head a bit or you don't think about it, it's just so watchable. So get into that if you haven't been interested. Because I know there's been like a lot of criticism from like purists who wanted a straightforward like 80s adaptation, but this was a much smarter way to honor the comic book and keep it relevant for people who watch TV today, because the comic book market's very niche. You got to appeal to, people today now. So did it very respectfully and originally, and totally recommend that. recommend that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah, so I guess that wraps up our first ever video podcast, we could call it that.
Yeah.
Superhero themed episode. I think in our next episode, let's move the popcorn and get to the kind of the meaty stuff. Let's talk about what are some like great films that are coming out or that we've been watching. Let's throw in some Australian films in there. Since in Perth, Australia, the theaters are back open again because of us not really having COVID anymore. Knock on wood, I guess.
Yeah.
So an exciting time for film in a way. So I think let's talk about that. What do you think?
I think we could both watch Tenet. I mean, it comes out here September sometime. So if you're interested in talking about the new Chris Nolan joint, Cake, I would be down to talk about that. And we could mention because during quarantine I've caught up on some like classic movies that I've never seen that I really loved, so we could have a chat about that as well. We'll come up with something good.
Okay.
All right.
Well, until next time.
Bye.